Welcome. Those of you who are joining us here on Facebook, those of you who are joining us here on YouTube, we are so privileged to be back with you another afternoon, the second afternoon for the week. We hope that you've had a great day at work. Whatever you did today, that you had a productive day thus far. The afternoon is still young, and so I know some of you guys might be still at work. We hope that the day gets a little easier as the hours move by. We have quite a few things to discuss with you this afternoon. And again, as we start, we love to ask you to share the live stream, whether you're picking us up here on Facebook or you're picking us up on YouTube. If you're new, guys, subscribe. Give us your comments. We're going to share some of those. If you're joining us on Facebook, we're going to ask that you share our live stream back to your profiles, back to your page. Make your comments. We're going to try to show a couple of them during the course of the afternoon. Welcome to the afternoon rush. And I will be joined by my co-host very shortly. We have quite a few persons we're going to be talking with. The mayor of Linden, the municipality of Linden, the mayor and town council of Linden, Mayor Arundel, her worship. We're going to be talking with her. We're going to talk a little bit with Kathy Hughes, former Minister of Telecommunication. We're going to talk to her a little bit about education and things that would have happened in our sector that would have provided foundation for what the PPPC is benefiting from now. We're going to be talking with a couple of other folks. We hope that you sit back, relax, and thanks for making us your stop this afternoon for valid information and credible news as well. Guys, we're going to hold so you can share, retweet, whatever you need to do at your end. We're going to hold for you guys. And we know some of you guys are commenting even now. Welcome, wherever you're joining us from, whether you're at home here in Guyana, or you're joining us in Aspera, folks. We are very grateful. And I have a Mike Pence fly here on the set bothering me. So if you see me swatting back and forth, know it's that Mike Pence fly that I'm trying to get rid of. Yeah, so happy to see so many of you. So happy to see so many of you. A number of things happening today. I saw the fraudulent, illegal government led by Irfan Ali held a meeting with political parties today on the national budget. But apparently they're only talking to themselves, since lots of the political parties, small political parties, are subsets of the PPPC. And you had probably one good thing that came out of that, and we're going to discuss that a little later on. We are still following what's happening, for instance, with the fishermen who are being detained by the fraudulent Venezuelan government led by Nicolas Maduro and his acolytes. We don't see too much, commentary coming out of the United States Embassy. Auntie Sarah, what's happening at your end, or the European Union and their representatives here? What's happening, folks? I don't see any commentary coming out of the British High Commission. What's happening, folks? This is a good time to comment. We know a couple of months ago, every day was a press statement. This is a good time to have a press statement coming out. A very, very good time to have a press statement, folks. So I don't know if we should hold our breaths. I would hate to expire. So I guess we aren't going to do that, but it's a good time as any. And I'm privileged again to be joined by, as I told you, the young, the beautiful former Minister of Public Telecommunications, uh, Mrs. Catherine Hughes. Welcome, Kathy, and my co-host Randolph Critchlow, looking all scholastic in that corner there.
Man,
Randy,
y'all know how to really soar. In my day, we used to use the word, but y'all, Sharon, you know how to throw a line.
lyrics as the Trinidadians
And
say.
let me tell you, a falling fit. It is
Good, good.
wonderful to be. It is wonderful to be here. How could I not want to be here and to have a nice discussion with you guys? How are you?
I am great, Kathy. So good to see you as well. How are things at your end?
Pretty good, busy in a kind of a way, but pretty good. Giving thanks. COVID is getting worse all over the world, and I just hope we in Guyana understand. I know the new strain is in Trinidad. The Trinidad government has spoken about that, and of course in Brazil. So we just want to make sure, we want to make sure we stay safe.
Yeah,
And
yeah. You know,
with your permission, I want to talk a little bit about education too.
well, I was coming there. I was going to say that um, we understand that God is Guyanese, and that is why we've been spared so many things that should have really taken us under. We had one minister who said, he wished that an epidemic would, be unleashed. Well, I think he probably is grinning from ear to ear now, but it's only by the grace of God, because we have a government who has not been taking the COVID precautions to heart by any measure. Their own precautions they breach on a daily basis. But one of the wonderful things that probably they are trying to, but not seemingly able to capitalize on, is the infrastructure you built as Minister of Telecommunication in the David Grange administration, where you have internet hubs in so many communities, internet ready in so many communities. I mean, we didn't see COVID in 2018 on the horizon by any measure, but we were able to benefit from the foresight of having all of that internet connectivity. And I think one of the things that I did mention yesterday that goes understated is the amount of tablets also, and
Yep.
not just some cheap flimsy tablet. The Huawei tablet, I would say, can rival the iPad
Yeah.
in terms of usability and everything else, sturdiness and so forth. And hundreds, if not thousands, of those tablets were given out. I don't see, however, government moving in that direction. I see them hustling to give out school uniform vouchers.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
who's
workbook.
concerned with school uniforms at this stage in the COVID pandemic? I don't even know if we've come off of the first wave yet. But it's kudos to the work that you have done that provides a strong foundation for education currently.
Mhm. Thank you very much, Sharad. And that's what I was so interested in discussing in your program today, because I think there's some things that we can do as a country, as a community, and as Guyanese, just to ensure that our children will not lose close to a year. As you know, a lot of the lockdown started in March, so we've had about 9 months now of working and trying to make sure that as a country, we are still able to give our children a proper education.
Correct.
Now, one of my concerns, and let me link this to the fact that yesterday the world all over was celebrating or acknowledging, recognizing International Day for Education. And it was interesting that they had a very appropriate theme: recover and revitalize education. And that's really what we need to be doing at this point in time. So I think you started off with a good reminder of what I call the ICT network and infrastructure that we as a coalition government put in place. And that's something that I'm disappointed the government in this critical time is not building on. So, as you know, we cannot be back in schools and we have to look at education in a whole new, different light. And this is where we all know the quest for online learning. and the fact that a lot of opportunities, both locally and internationally, are available for our children. And so I want us today to focus on some of the things that we should be doing. First of all, I want to say that I'm disappointed. On a few occasions, I have gotten some reports of the internet in some of the ICT hubs and even in some of the schools being currently switched off. And as
Yeah.
you will know, in our administration felt that, you know what, internet is something that the government should provide as a service. And so today, I want to be pleading to folks in your communities to start asking questions. You know where those internet hubs were set up. We set up over 150 of those. And then we had more than 172 schools that had internet. This is the time when we need to be planning how we could use safely that internet that was either in our communities or in our schools. And why I'm saying that is because we know that today the Ministry of Education is still working on giving out workbooks. And I am saddened by the fact that I get queries and situations, information from individuals who may have filled in a workbook a month ago or 6 weeks ago and still have not been able to get the second set of workbooks. So in today's world, the cost of physically getting either parents that may be out of a job to find money to go and collect a workbook, or even on the ministry side to have to deliver physical workbooks and books is not the most efficient way to do it. And that's why I'm happy that long before COVID, we had started to put a digital platform in place. And that is what the rest of the world is pushing towards. So one of the things we need to be looking at is how can we get more devices to our children? And by device, I mean a tablet, a laptop, computer, whatever. And then how could we get more connectivity to individuals and students so that they can do their work? Sharad, there's a terrible divide that has occurred that is just getting larger. And we need to understand it. If your child has a device and you are fortunate enough to give them internet at home, then we know for sure that they're going to be able to do their education online. If your child does not have a device and you don't have internet at home, they're limited in their opportunities for learning in today's COVID world.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm demanding that the government has to be reaching that gap. We laid the platform, they have to continue, because only that can guarantee that our children learn.
But Kathy, I thought that this was a tremendous opportunity, having a pandemic, to look at the glass half full, to look on the brighter side, to look at the silver lining, to rethink and reimagine education in the 21st century. We always talk about the smart classrooms and so forth, but it seems as though for the PPP, it has just been lip service. I remember that on the day tenure, there was a smart classroom launch at Multilateral School many years ago. That was never multiplied. That was never proliferated, because it was just one of those things that you do for publicity stunt. But as you say, Kathy, you do not open 100+ ICT hubs across the country for a publicity stunt. And I'm especially pleased and heartened that so many were open in the hinterland. You had places like St. Monica, Mainstay, Itabali, Batavia, Kaikan, Fairview, Cato, Paramakatoy, Irocrama, Anai, Aishalta.
Over 175 locations, Sharad, just in the hinterland.
Yeah, and I can go on, Toka, Sarama, you name it. So many of the hinterland areas, and this is not only hinterland, I'm just using the hinterland as the far-flung areas. I know over 100 were open, scores in Region 5, Region 6. And so we are really and truly have no excuse why we are not pushing on the ICT side of schooling. And these workbooks and so on should be on the other side, right? Small number of persons who might not be interconnected. And this is where the government should really be going. But we see them, I see screenshots and photograph of blackboards being sent to students as workbooks. I mean, this is madness.
Sharon,
This is madness. 5 months on, we should be further than where we are.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Sharon. Good afternoon, Minister, of course. I have an interesting take on this entire thing, and I want to get the minister's opinion on this. When we look at certain things that are supposed to be deemed rights, citizens have a right to education, they have health, and this is why we don't privatize fully these things, because the government has a responsibility to provide these things for the citizens. They are actually rights. Now, if we are hit with this COVID pandemic and we are in a new dispensation and teaching primarily right now is online, those at home still have a right to an education, and provision of internet access so the teachers can teach them remotely is the government's responsibility.
Yeah.
What is your take on that, Minister?
Randy, you are absolutely correct. And that was the foundation of the thinking, which, I spoke about many, many times. And that was the foundation on which we decided that we were going to connect all the schools, primary schools, secondary schools, universities, the training institutions, all the different learning institutions, University of Guyana, all the campuses. Because as you say, the government must be the ones to provide the infrastructure and all that is needed. And I want to give some specific examples. I was disheartened. A couple weeks ago, the current fraudulent president made a comment, and they mentioned that they were going to be reintroducing the one laptop per family program. One laptop per family does not help a family that has 2 children that need to go to school every day for a certain amount of time. One laptop per family is an old approach, dead, absolutely dead. Because today, in today's world, all the countries, if you analyze it, are looking at one laptop per child. In fact, if you do a search, one laptop per child, you will see that at MIT and in the US, and there's several programs where countries are moving towards giving every child a device.
Yeah.
And some of the persons that would have heard me on the campaign trail and also, speaking when I was in my former position, that is what our goal was. We were moving, having put in the internet connectivity to a place where we would give a child a device. A very good tablet. Sharon, I'm glad you mentioned those Huawei tablets we gave out. Go on Amazon. Those Huawei tablets cost over $300 US. We didn't give out a cheap anything that was going to break up, right? And so what I'm saying is that we have to start the process and change the thinking, revitalize. No longer are we to be looking at spending billions of dollars on a textbook. We should be going to spend that money in the budget we just finished, or this budget that's coming up next year. There should be money in there for every Guyanese child to get a device so that they can learn online. The reality is that we all hope, we would love our children to go back to school in a traditional sense, where the teacher is there, where their friends are there. But, every day that approach seems less and less likely in the near future. So they were saying that school probably will not be able to come on stream until March. Now they're taking it right back to August because, as we're seeing, there are new strains that are developing. On the news, places like China are now having to grapple once again with a new strain and this disease. So I don't think that we can say that this disease is going to be, this pandemic is going to be over in a few months. So what is it that we need to do? Number one, as a country, we need some of that same oil money that we are hearing announcements that we're collecting monies for finally. We need to make the education of our children a priority. So whether we use the oil revenues we've collected, whether we use our current budget allocations that need to be earmarked this year in last year's allocation or in this year's allocation, we want to see substantial amounts for connectivity, meaning internet to children, to homes. And why I say that, again, the technology is there. In today's world, there are the little MiFis, and I've done some investigations into what happens in the US. In rural communities, they are able to give a child a little portable internet. And they know that that portable internet machine, no bigger than your palm, is connected, can be connected to the National Data Management Authority network. So the government doesn't even have, it doesn't cost the government anymore. It costs the government to buy the little MiFis. And you could even offer it to parents so that parents that can afford to buy the MiFi at, once and for all, they can buy one. And then with the device that the government gives the child, instead a range of textbooks that can be delivered now anyway, they would have a device and they would have the connectivity. Technology makes all of this possible if we just choose to make the right decision.
Correct.
Yeah, definitely.
Very well.
I want to, as we're on this topic, kind of lay out the situation for the average Guyanese citizen right now that has 3 children, like you were mentioning, that they probably got a little phone and the child is logging into the Zoom classroom on the phone, but the other 2 children are there. Not only the devices, but they are left up to the private internet providers.
Yep.
And we have to, and I believe that right track, the government has to start thinking about this thing that you're providing for these children is to aid them in getting something that is their right. So we have to, we were, as Sherrod mentioned, we didn't even think about COVID. Yeah. Your ministry was going ahead and connecting those schools, connecting those communities.
Yeah, and Randy, I want to add there that it was part of a systematic plan, because this was the decade of development and education nation. So we were moving in this direction regardless. And that is how leadership works. That is how good government and vision operates. That it anticipates what is to come, and it puts down the infrastructure. You don't put on the roof for the house, then you build the foundation. The PPP tried to give out laptops in the past, but there was no internet connectivity. It didn't make any sense.
Yep.
No sense whatsoever. And even that project was riddled with corruption.
Yep.
Right now we have the infrastructures. Now that they don't have it, wasn't a promise. It was something being delivered and has been delivered for hundreds of communities across this country, and they're making absolutely no use of it.
So, Sherrod, even now,
Kathy, just let me add this one bit.
Sure.
One of our MPs was in a border town, quite recently, a border village, and was talking on our show, piggybacking off of the infrastructure that you and the new AFC government put in place.
Yeah.
So any child in that community close to the Venezuela border or the Suriname border who have access to those ICT hubs can be doing their schoolwork.
Yes. And yes, Sherrod, that's the point I was going to make. that all those locations that had internet, as Guyanese taxpayers' money was spent to put that in place. That facility should continue. And I'm telling the parents, the teachers, any of the students listening, that we have to advocate that internet at those locations continue.
Yeah.
Because then the communities themselves can decide how they manage the use of that internet.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that if there's a community center in a particular place that we had put the internet, the folks, the parents in the community, the mothers, the teachers, whoever, they'll work out a way so that children could still come at a carefully organized time in a safe manner and still be able to use the internet. That applies for in school, that applies for at the community hubs that we set up. So it's almost as we're saying, look, at least we can make the best of what we know we already have. So we have some in some locations. How is it that we can use those locations and that internet to make it better?
Correct. And you know,
Yeah.
I was checking the name of one of the villages quite recently that was saying they are not receiving any COVID information because I want to be accurate from the government. And so I want to come off from the issue of just education and how even piggybacking on the communication technology,
Yeah.
doctors could be talking with residents of those communities. What are your symptoms? What symptoms are you experiencing to know and be able to track the spread of COVID? So it's not only education it can facilitate, but your health infrastructure.
Sharon,
Talk to me.
don't make me start to cry on this program, because you will know that we went to places like Oriella 2 years ago that at that time only had one telephone provider, and it was a mobile phone, cell phone. And you had to go at the top of a certain building and move the phone to get reception. And we brought internet into a place like Oriella and into the health center. So again, I want people to understand that we put internet in a lot of those regional offices. We deliberately did that in Anna Regina, in Region 3, Region 4, all over. Kathy Hughes did not say that you only put in the internet in Black people area. I do not stand for that.
Yeah.
We
Kathy,
put internet all over, in hospitals. Go to Latham Hospital. We put it in health centers.
yeah.
The little room at why I mentioned the place of the Berbice River that we went to, where we put that internet, is because we went to the community and we actually had live interactions. We did a test with a doctor in Linden speaking to a technician at my office in Georgetown. We put internet in these hospitals so that, and big telecommunication TVs, internet ready in every single ministry had one, just so that health centers and doctors could communicate with each other.
Yeah. Fantastic.
And ministries in Georgetown could communicate with their agents in other parts of the country, all over. Now, why I say don't make me cry is because it is unacceptable that because of politics, you make sure that the people can benefit, because that's what you're doing.
Kathy, let me come back to what I was saying earlier. Now, I noticed on the list of areas that is being served by the Data Management Authority in terms of giving internet, Moraikabai is one of those areas. Yet, on the 14th day of January 2021, according to Starbuck News, this is the Tushao of Moraikabai. In the wake of the Moraikabai in Region 5 being declared a COVID-19 hotspot. A medical team is to be deployed there today, but the head of the community has lamented poor communication on the virus from the authorities. Tushau Colin Adrian yesterday said that the village council is in the dark about the COVID-19 situation in the community, and his expression of frustration to the regional health officer has resulted in persons believing that Moraikabai leaders are being uncooperative.
Now that is sad, and I thank you for that specific example, because we know that there are many more examples like this.
Yeah.
Let me also say, as you know, that last year, 2020, I think it might be 2019 too, every single Tushau got a tablet. And it wasn't just a gift, it was so it would enable them to communicate. So the current Minister of Health has no reason and no excuse, given the internet at hospitals, the smart health centers that were opened up, the smart health centers too that PAHO, WHO, PAHO Guyana also had a very vibrant program to make sure that they put internet, and they created smart health centers and a few of the hospitals. So the infrastructure there is there for you to be able to speak. You could have a huge media conference that all the healthcare professionals across the country can tune into and get the latest up-to-date information on COVID. That should be taking place every single week. Instead of the minister just speaking to people in Georgetown and its environs on a few TV stations, why not send that same information on a feed to all the internet locations, the places where communities, offices, RDCs, ministries, branches of ministries have connectivity, so more people can be involved and informed. The technology is there, but it appears as if in some places we're not using it anymore. Why is it not working in Moraikabai? Why is it that in all these other areas we haven't seen a plan to build on the internet and to start looking at how you're going to put more students using it? All the laptops that we had given out to teachers, as you know, President Granger had a 1 laptop per teacher program, because he said this is where teachers could prepare their lesson plans. When we opened the Center of Excellence on the university campus with monies donated by the Indian government, it was so people in the public sector could go and get trained. So training is available. My ministry used to do training with young children, you know, in coding and website development. All of this happened under the Ministry of Public Telecommunications.
Very relevant now. Very relevant now.
And the first ministry you closed down is the Ministry of Public Telecommunications, which recognized where this world was going and how we needed to change our children.
And there'd be too shame to open it back now. Kaki, unfortunately, we have to leave it there for this afternoon. We have to leave the entire program for you whenever you come, especially on such a broad issue like this that needs ventilation and needs broader discussion. But thanks nonetheless for coming.
Sharon, I want to just say one word quickly to the parents, because parents, your children's education is now in your hands. I want you, when your children wake up in the morning, tell them to go and have a bath. They don't have to put on their school uniform, but if you want them to put it on, let them sit and allocate a certain amount of time each day that your children will pretend that they're at school. And you give them a book, you give them a workbook, or if you have access to the internet, you make sure they're doing something educational. Something as simple as learning their tables at the back of an old exercise will ensure that they start and they maintain their process of education. We have to work together. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kathy. Ladies and gentlemen, former Minister of Public Telecommunication, Mrs. Kathy Hughes, there for you, walking us through what we should be doing in education, utilizing ICT to its maximum. This is the period when you cannot, gather together because of the pandemic. Social distancing is needed. School is out. We could have been further ahead in terms of being an educated nation, given all the ITC infrastructure that was put in place. Randy.
Sure. I just heard something very interesting, and it's not something new, but I don't realize that when the PPP took over in August 2nd, 2020, we were in the throes of COVID. So we knew what was happening. They knew that this public telecommunications aspect of education and dealing with COVID would have been something important. We were in the heart of COVID. We knew about COVID since March. So to think that this was the first ministry that you would shut down is something very interesting to think about now. It made no sense, and it speaks to the lack of foresight on the part of the DPP government. Right. I see we're joined by worship. Miss Arundel, good afternoon and welcome to the Afternoon Rush.
Good afternoon and thank you for having me.
The Mayor of Linden, for those persons who are now joining us, we're privileged to have the Mayor of Linden join the show this afternoon. Let me just start with a light question. How is Linden doing given the COVID-19 pandemic?
Oh, we're doing good, I do believe we have seen some reduction in the cases, and persons have been adhering to the COVID-19 guidelines. So we are doing.
Okay. I know that we've been back and forth here. I don't know if the drama is as intense in Linden, but I know that the ministry and our municipality here in Georgetown would have been at some loggerheads. What are some of the main things facing the municipality in Linden at this point in time?
I think our greatest concern, and again, let me say good day to all who are on. We're not getting all the excitement as Georgetown is, but I think one of the major concerns we have here is rates and taxes, and the fact that seems the minister would have announced that they're not doing any reevaluation, which puts not only Linden but every other municipality on the strain at this time. Because if you don't give us rates and taxes, then it means we cannot sustain a municipality, which means that you are without saying it, you are reducing local governance, something that we have fought for as a party, as APNU AFC, and something that really empowered the people. So I think that's my greatest concern at this point, that we need to be able to develop local governance, because if we don't, then we will not be able to become the nation we should.
Okay. I know that, let me come back in. I know that rates and tax has been a big issue here in Georgetown, and businesses paying up the rates and tax so that the work of the council and have so what mechanism is in place in the mining town for that aspect of the collection of rates and tax?
Amazingly, there's none. Usually the government does allow us the revenue collection and reevaluate. Look, what's happening right now? Persons are paying 1,900 Guyana dollars, and that's the highest for household per year.
Wow.
To have all the services provided for them. That's $1,900 We can't buy a shirt with that.
This is monthly.
This is yearly. This is at the end of the year. That's what they pay. You average like 30 cents a day for all the services you have to give. Outside of that, we only have 40% of Linden on the role of the municipality. That's because, of course, we're waiting for the government to hand over those new housing schemes. And when those housing schemes come in, we'll have more persons on board. So we need to be able to do something. We're looking, and we just came out of a meeting where we're looking in to see what we can do. Because what we found, a lot of people in Linden have understood the concerns of the council, and they're willing to pay their rates and taxes. And so definitely we're going to have to look at an alternative to garner funds while we wait on the government to make a decision.
Okay. Let me get into another topic. I know that capacity building at the municipality level and around the country, the NDCs and the various councils that we have is a very important thing. What were some of the benefits? I know the APNUAFC would have engaged in some sort of administrative development at the level. Can you tell us about that?
Definitely. I do believe, and I must congratulate the APNU AFC. I think they did an amazing job, not only just in the return of local democracy, but in the training and the look. When they train, I remember the PS saying that we are training leaders so that you can leave legacies and you can lead. And I think that is what the APNU AFC did. We've had several training across the years from since we came in 2016. We've had training with mayors alone. We've had training with councils. We've had training with administrative staff. We've had training in local governance and management. We've had training in local governance and sustainable development. We've had training in mayors, and myself was able to benefit from training across the country. I've been to Africa, to Colombia, to the United States. All of those were training in local governance with the intention of making us better. So there have been a lot of training happening, and they have been the creation of the municipal development plan that each municipality, once they participated, would have that municipal development plan in their hands that helps them to make those decisions on the ground now that would allow us to be able to go forward. And so that was a great step, and we need to keep that up. We need to keep up that kind of knowledge that was given to us and not let us lose it in the process.
Okay. I know that we recently had, and I know this is your second run as mayor, am I correct?
This is my fourth year.
Fourth year, yes. Well, second round, fourth, yes. Let me say, and I know we have a new regional chair. What can you tell us about the works? And are you guys working together on development issues? And what can you speak on that?
Well, definitely. The new regional chair is a past councillor of the Linden municipality. So the relationship definitely is something that has started a while back. And we are working together. The system that is now being created, projects done by the municipality and projects projected and done by the RDC is being shared between the two organizations. And once budget cycle comes, we're sharing where the places that we need to go, what are the things we need to do. So there definitely is a great working relationship, and we're keeping each other updated. There's now the development of the regional administrative group that was started by the council. And so all businesses, organizations, whether government or non-governmental, sits on that committee once monthly. So we're able to share our ideas, and in order to understand where everybody's going, and we're all on the same, the same wavelength at this point.
Yeah. On that issue, I know you spoke about the regional administration development. What can Linderners look forward in 2021? I know we're still in the throes of COVID. I know we are still battling, and many persons would have lost their jobs. But what can we look forward from the town council?
I think we had so much planned for 2020, and we were able to get none off the ground. What we have found is that there's been a lot of loopholes. So we are at this point looking at areas where we can develop socially. We've never had an open space in Linden. We're developing 2 open spaces. And that's not so people can just congregate, but that's a chance for persons to come out, for children to come out, to get a chance to ease their minds because we're home all day. There's youth projects that we're developing. We're working with the regional youth groups in Linden to see what projects can come on board. We're hoping to collaborate with entities to make sure that our community center grounds. We have 2 community centers that have completely been built, and we're looking at training programs in those community centers that would allow for persons to come out, training with single parents, training with youths that are out of school youths. We have the women's home that has been developed, and we're reaching out to faith-based organizations to have that become operational in this year. So those are some of the basic things that are happening, along with the other things that we have to do monthly. That's our repairs to roads, our burial grounds, our street lightings, or patching of our roads. Those are some of the basic things. But outside of that, we're looking at working with youth, and we're looking at training, especially as it relates to our staff in the municipality, being able to train them a little more this year so that they can become effective.
Yeah. when we speak about local democracy and we talk about the process of electing our leaders at the local level, you're a beneficiary of the return to local democracy that was brought by the AP and UAFC. How have things been different since then? And do you think that, I mean, looking forward, and we are still uncertain whether or not we will have a local government election, which is constitutionally mandated in 2021. Looking forward, do you see this as, if we don't have it, as a problem?
If we don't have it, it becomes a problem because it makes the development that was done over 4 years, it starts to deteriorate. We cannot have that happening. I do not have a feeling in my heart that this administration wishes to continue with local governance, but it would be beneficial that they do. Local governance will allow for an holistic approach to development. I think that is what President Granger was looking towards. If we can develop every community, every village, and that's why the CDCs have been developed. If we can develop communities, those communities come together and develop towns. Those towns come together and develop the country. If we try to go back to a state where we want to demand from central governance what should happen in townships and communities, we're going to have too much schisms in the middle of what's happening. Nobody sitting up there alone knows and understands what's happening on the ground, except those that have been voted to do so. And that is why you need to allow the local democracy to continue. And I would hope that this administration, who fought so very hard to get this position, would make sure that they continue progress. This is not about throwing away something because it wasn't your idea. This is about looking for the betterment of your people. And I do hope that's the direction we're heading in.
Yeah. I think the entire country is hoping that we can continue with local democracy. I think what has happened over the last 5 years is that there's a renewed sense of community. There's a renewed sense of I can be a part of bringing change to my neighborhood and my community through the work of my local organs. I can be on the council. I can start my CDC. You know, these are the things that we were missing for 23 years. And I'm happy to see that. Go ahead.
I think if you can remember the day that President Granger was sworn in, the entire day felt so serene. It's as though everybody had a sense of, countryhood, and they loved that moment. When local governance came, it allowed them to be able to be active in their own community that would lend to such an overall feeling of nationhood and loving your country. And that's why local governance is so important. When you can get people standing up in their communities and fighting on behalf of their communities for what needs to be done. So when something changes, when we introduce something new, when we bring new projects into the community accepts the project. And then that community will make sure that the project survives because they have played a significant role.
Yes.
Yeah. Cannot lose local governance or we will lose that.
Yeah. When the community has a vested interest in the projects and they are part of it. I mean, one of the biggest pluses for, and the biggest advertisement for local government or local democracy and ensuring that we have local democracy is the amount of young people that came to the fore.
Yes.
I just look around at all of the councils. I know about 10 young persons on the Georgetown Council, right? We look at the mayors around the country, Region 7, Mr. Marshall. We look at yourself. We look at the regional chair for Region 4 and Region 7 and Region 10. Young people coming to the fore and stepping into those leadership positions. And that, for me, is one of the biggest advertisement for ensuring that we have local democracy.
I agree with you, because if we don't, then we will fossilize. If we cannot create new leaders, what will happen? We have to bring those leaders through the chain. And I think that chain begins at CDC, comes into your municipality, goes to your RDC, and then they're best able to serve at the national level. I do believe when there's no stepping stone and people just reach to parliament or reach the positions, they do not understand what's happening in the ground, and in most cases, they will fail. So we need to keep this up.
Yeah. Definitely, and we're happy that you're here this afternoon, bringing The good news from the mining town and then my hometown, by the way. I want to Sharon also is from Linden, so
Yes.
I want to end on a lighter note. He's here. He's here. You hear Linden?
My
And
boy John, sorry. Please and thank you, Madam Mayor. This is my mayor, you know.
All right.
Right. I want to end on a lighter note thing. You know, when I used to go to school in Linden way back when it was horse drawn carts.
Way back.
way, but we had to train to Linden. I remember Fat Poke being a big thing.
Yes.
When is Linden going to package this thing and put a nice label on it and export this thing to the people of Georgetown, especially who don't know what Fat Poke is?
I'm not sure, but I saw it happen at Mackenzie High School one year at the science fair, and I really thought we would have grabbed onto it and used it for something more. So it's definitely something we need to look into. There's lots of that around the place.
Yeah. I had my fill going to school walking all the way up and picking. We want to thank you very much for being here this afternoon and bringing the good news. We hope that you can come back and continue to inform us about what is happening in the mining town.
Definitely, anytime.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Do have a blessed day.
Hey, for those persons who are now joining us, we were just speaking there to Ms. Monica Arndale, who is the mayor of the good old town of Linden, Sharon, the place we were born.
The mining town that has produced the greats like Randolph Critchlow
And
and others.
Oh my word.
Oh yeah.
Yes, we are going to, I think we are very close to program time right now, Sharon, and we had a very informative day. I see some information coming in. I think that we are going to save it for the ring tonight. Get some juicy information coming in about the PPP continued lies. All right. Talking about a particular health facility that they said was commissioned by the PPP when it wasn't so. We want to dig a little deeper into that story tonight. I think we want to throw it up there, right? A post made by the Honorable Sherwin Holder MP, one of your colleagues in Parliament. We are going to read and we're going to dig deep and get the information. Chad, I don't know if you spoke already about the $2 million shed. I saw you at the shed, man.
Yes. You know, one has to protest the fraudulent activities of this government because we all know that shed doesn't cost $2 million. I mean, give us a break, please. More in the ring.
Oh my word. Well, we want to thank those persons who joined us today. We want to thank the former Minister of Public Telecommunications, Ms. Catherine Hughes, for bringing information to us. It's vital. I find it very shocking. It's still with me right now as we're closing the show. To think that the PPP would have closed that as one of the first ministries, knowing full well that in the heart of COVID and telecommunications and connectivity, ICT would have been something that you would have to lean on so heavily to deliver what essentially is a right.
Short-sighted.
Right. That is a right. The government has a responsibility, and I'll say this before I leave. Government has a responsibility to ensure that certain things are delivered to the citizens as their right. Education is one of them. Health is one of them. This is why we don't put health private in the private hands all the time. You must have a public hospital because citizens have a right for health care. This is why we don't have all private schools, because school children have a right to be educated. Right. And the education right now has to come through the internet. So as a government, you have to be thinking, how do I ensure that these rights of the children are met, and that you are leaving the parents up to the hands of GTT or e-networks, or to thief some of the neighbor Wi-Fi to ensure that the children get some internet to go to class. And you shut down the ministry that was on a path of connecting the entire country and ensuring that everybody has connectivity. That's the ministry that you closed first. This is so emblematic of the PPP. Visionless.
Yeah.
Visionless. All right, Sharon, I think we can go.
Yeah. I was saying, folks, as we go, just remember to observe all of the COVID-19 protocols are in place for your health and your safety. Remember to wear your mask, sanitize, social distance. You should not be gathering in groups greater than 10, folks. It's for your benefit, your health and safety. I noticed that the president of Suriname is COVID positive. And I think the new strain of COVID, I think, is also present in Suriname and Brazil. And so we want to watch what we are doing here, folks. This is a deadly disease. Don't let the government tell you anything different. The fraudulent government. Stay safe, folks. See you at 8 in the ring.
Yes, remember, let us continue to work together for national development. Do enjoy the rest of the evening.